Today I want to talk about the Warlords. And honestly, I was going to talk about why they're so important, but I think most of their importance obviously comes from their strength. It's easy to write them off. And I think the Warlords, they get a bad rap because of everything that happened to them throughout the story. And for the most part, they've been the main antagonists for Luffy in regards to his journey and using them as stepping stones. So overall, I think the Warlords, they don't get the credit that they naturally, I feel like they deserve. But today I'm here to talk about that. The purpose of it is to show just how powerful they are. Like if the Warlords came together, just how strong of a pirate crew they would have, but also their importance to the entire aspect of One Piece. The Warlords in a nutshell were supposed to be 7 at one time, and they were composed of grizzled veterans, pirates that have been to the New World, pirates that seemingly have connections to the Yonko. Have you guys ever thought about that? From Mihawk, Jinbei, Crocodile, Dofi, Kuma, Moria Hancock, Blackbeard, Law, Buggy, and Weevil. For Mihawk, obviously his connection is to Shanks. For Jinbei, he was connected to Big Mom and to Whitebeard. For Crocodile, he was connected to Whitebeard in some way. For Dofi, he was connected to Kaido. Of course, he was connected to a lot of people, but his main connection was to Kaido. Kuma, he's a special case because he was connected to Dragon, and Dragon, I think he has the influence of a Yonko. And also Kuma was one that sacrificed his entire being for the world government, so we're not sure what's going on there. Gecko Moria connected to Kaido. Boa Hancock in a way connected to Gold Roger because of her connection to Rayleigh, if you want to say that, and her connection to Luffy, the Yonko number 5, Goko, whatever the hell you want to say. Blackbeard, his connection to Whitebeard, Shanks. Law now his connection to Kaido and Big Mom. Buggy his connection to Shanks and Gold Roger, and Weevil his connection to Whitebeard, or his alleged connection to Whitebeard. The Warlords in totality, they have a lot of influence. Mihawk is the greatest swordsman in the world, so for having someone of that caliber as a part of the Warlord system greatly shifts the power towards your side. For the world government, they felt like they needed the Warlords to balance the world, because the Warlords, as we know, make up the 3 great powers. I think one of the things I mostly enjoy about the Warlords is the diversity. Having the strongest swordsman in the world, having probably the strongest fishman, excluding Jack, I guess the full fishman, the strongest full fishman in the world. Having Crocodile, and I think Crocodile is a unique case because the perception of what he is and his influence, I think, is somewhat undermined, not given the credence that he deserves. Crocodile, for the most part, had a crime syndicate, Baroque Works, and they were bounty hunters for the most part because they would take down pirates, deliver them to the world government, take the bounty, and then use them for whatever they would need them for. So Crocodile, while he was not on the level of Dofi as far as like being the central nervous system of the pirate world, he was close. Crocodile was really ambitious. His main goal was the ancient weapon. As a combatant, he gets a lot of flack because of everything that happened between him and Luffy, but I think he was redeemed in totality at Marineford. Of course, that's a separate video in itself, but Crocodile doesn't get the love he deserves. I think Doflamingo is on the opposite end of Crocodile, where a lot of people know and acknowledge how important Doflamingo is to the story and important to the world government, and we are seeing his importance throughout the story even after he got arrested and sent to Impel Down. In Wano, they were saying that Doflamingo, even though he's arrested, he was the front for the world government. Like they would send him to purchase weapons from anyone, or from Kaido specifically, but this time they had to send CP0. They had to come themselves because they didn't have that front that they normally had. So Doflamingo was a broker for the world government as well. We know Blackbeard only used the world government just so he could get to Impel Down, so he could bolster his crew even more, so it's not even fair to even use him as a character or his motivations, because he never really cared about the world government. I don't think any of them do, but for the most part, Blackbeard had such a short stint as a warlord because after he showed up to Marineford, he said, "I'm retiring as a warlord. I no longer need you guys." Law, as well, he had ulterior motives. Buggy, he was only appointed a warlord because of his perceived connections and honestly clout. Weevil is an interesting one because based on the things we know about him, it's implied that these things are not true. Of course, he's claiming that he's the son of Whitebeard, and then Kizaru even said that Weevil has the strength of a young Whitebeard. While all that could be true, his motivations are not his own. Of course, he wants to get back at Whitebeard's perceived sons, but what does he really want? We know these are the aspirations of his mom, Bakken, but we're not sure of his motivations, we're not sure of his strength, we're not sure exactly where he's going to end up. I had assumed that Weevil at some point would be in Wano, but when we saw him again, he was on some random island. Of course, he could go to Wano at some point, but for right now, he's not there. Boa Hancock is one of the most powerful pirates in One Piece. After meeting Boa, we knew she was powerful. We knew she was transcendent. We knew she was the most beautiful woman in One Piece. However, it took a turn after she was smitten by Luffy. Boa Hancock, in a lot of people's eyes, went from a powerful female character who could reign dominion over anyone she would see fit, well, most characters she would see fit, to someone that was there just to aid Luffy. I'm not saying her character has been completely sabotaged and destroyed. Her affection for Luffy altered how people felt about her as a character, because then when Luffy's around, Boa Hancock seemingly turned into a shell of herself. Not as a combatant because she would defend Luffy to her death, but in some ways it felt a bit gimmicky. And Luffy is the main character, so normally when we see Boa Hancock, we're going to see Luffy. Of course, there's a special thing brewing here with Boa Hancock and Kobe. Both are seemingly in love with Luffy, so we'll see how that goes. If you're caught up to the One Piece manga, so spoiler alert, you know that at this point the Warlord system has been abolished. They're no longer Warlords, and they've sent people to capture the current Warlords. Jinbei has left the Warlords, Blackbeard, like I said, Law, Doflamingo is in Impel Down, Crocodile has left them. So the only current warlords that we know of that were active at that point was Mihawk, Hancock, Buggy, and Weevil. The main point of this though, as cool as all these characters are, and I think the warlord that people shun the most is probably Gecko Moria. I don't think he's as weak as people say, because it took the entire Straw Hat crew and then some to take down Moria, but people shun him after Marineford because of what Jinbei did to him and of course what Doflamingo did. The warlords are insanely powerful. They are part of the three great powers. They were placed there to maintain the balance. The strongest warlord a lot of people predict is Mihawk, because he's the greatest swordsman in the world, and we assume based on Zoro's gold, blah blah blah, Mihawk is the strongest warlord. The warlords as a whole though, they present several issues. Two examples were Doflamingo and Crocodile. Granted, they work for the world government, but they're also human and they're pirates, so they have their own aspirations. They took over countries. Well, Crocodile was attempting to take over Alabasta. Doflamingo actively took over Dressrosa. Of course, I always say Dressrosa was his to begin with because of the history of the Don Quixote family, and they made a lot of people's lives a living hell. Them being appointed by the world government, of course, that traces back to them. So when things like this become public, in Doflamingo's case, it's a bad stain. So one of the main issues is that you can't control these pirates. Again, they have their own aspirations. They're not going to always follow orders, and if they choose to betray you, you're normally not ready for that. Example with Blackbeard. He only used them to get to Impel Down, and by getting to Impel Down, he released all of the prisoners, had them fight, then took these strongest prisoners and added them to his crew. People from level 6 I'm talking about. Boa Hancock. She actively snuck Luffy into Impel Down, and Luffy's distraction inadvertently helped with Blackbeard's plan. So the warlords, they were a double-edged sword. They offered a lot of power and influence, and therefore you could somehow maintain the balance between the warlords, the world government, and the Yonko, but they were a wild card. Mihawk, even when Shanks showed up, like if it went to a battle, Mihawk said the agreement was not to fight Shanks, it was to fight Whitebeard. If I'm Sengoku at that point, if I say, okay, well now the agreement is to fight Shanks, now what? Is there a contract that we send to every warlord before a battle and they have to sign that, knowing what they're getting into? Because at the end of the day, you work for the world government, you're allied with them. So Mihawk's comment, while I understood it because the goal was to go against Whitebeard, it doesn't matter who shows up. You're still an employee of the world government. You're held liable in any situation. Like Hancock said, they should not underestimate the warlords because they were recruited essentially for their strength. The fact that they're willing to revoke all of the statuses of all these warlords means that the SSG and whatever that is can somehow pick up the slack for all the power that they lose with these warlords. That's hard to believe because I'm not sure how you're replacing the greatest swordsman in the world. I'm not sure how you're replacing one of the strongest female pirates in the world, the pirate empress Boa Hancock. Buggy, I understand how you replace him. Weevil, I'm not sure how you're replacing a perceived young Whitebeard, but we have to wait and see what the SSG is. My assumption was that they're modified soldiers, and having enough of them, they felt like even if a Yonko shows up, they can bolster their numbers with SSG. And maybe they have some top tier, maybe they have an ultimate 5 of the SSG or a top tier of the SSG that could give some of the warlords a good fight. I think the warlords in general were brilliant. Having them as stepping stones for Luffy was perfect. I think some of it wasn't executed in the best way because Crocodile, for one, he was a lot stronger than what was perceived pre-time skip, but he was used as a stepping stone for Luffy. They've been intertwined in the entire storyline of One Piece, from Law to Jinbei, again Doflamingo, Weevil. They're some of our favorite characters and some of the most unique personalities that you would see in the series. I still plan on making individual character videos because I think individually they shine and as a group they're great. And obviously the one that's made the most sacrifice is Kuma, and we still don't know exactly why he did that. I know for the longest, one of the running theories was that Kuma was at some point, they're going to mass produce him like they already have. Dragon was going to have a switch, and with that switch, he was going to turn all the pacifistas on the world government. I mean, we'll see if that plays out that way. It's looking more and more like that's not going to happen. But again, it's a wait and see thing. Something I also wanted to touch on is like if the warlords were to create a crew out of all these characters, easily Yonko level. Of course, the captain would be Mihawk, right? The right hand, I'm assuming either Prime Kuma or Doflamingo, or you can say a Weevil, or your boy Hancock. Even if Doflamingo isn't to the level of all the right hands. Right beneath that, you have a Kuma or a Hancock. You have a Jinbei, a Law. We're assuming Weevil is on that level. Then you still have Crocodile, Moria, and Buggy. The Warlords are a force, and if you have all these powers together, they're easily competing with any Yonko's crew, because if you bring their forces as well, they have a lot of influence. Jinbei has an entire country behind him, Hancock as well. Buggy recruited a lot of powerful people from Impel down. Doflamingo has an entire family. The Warlords are very impressive people. Some of my favorite characters in One Piece, people know Dofi's #1 for me. Law is also in my top 10. So guys, give me your thoughts. How do you perceive the Warlords? How strong do you think they would be if there were an entire crew? Or just give me your general thoughts on the Warlords and what they presented in the story. Did you enjoy it? Did you feel like they didn't get enough love? They were underestimated? Or do you think the Warlords in general are overrated? Leave your thoughts below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe for more content like this. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.